Hi everyone, good morning. So I hope everyone here knows that there was this ongoing series about diabetes on my channel where I have covered the symptoms of diabetes, the reasons of diabetes, what food a diabetic person can have, and what to do if you are pregnant and you have diabetes. So in today's live, I am going to one answer the questions whichever I have gotten about diabetes. Second, I am going to share a little science behind why diabetes happens and what exactly happens when you are healthy versus when you are a diabetic. And apart from that, a few mistakes that diabetic people make and how you can stop making that. And if somebody around you has diabetes, then how you can actually rectify those mistakes in order to manage your blood sugar better. So the first thing that I wanted to start with was actually a story. So, although there are, I think, hundreds of diabetic people that I've handled in the last 10 years of my practice, however, of course, a few cases they stay with us. So, and the reason it's like a very recent story, so that's why I can share it with you guys. So there's this person whom I am counseling for the nutritional management, and diabetes management, blood sugar management was one of the agendas that we had. Just a second. Yeah. So the challenges that we had in that case was that, of course, the person is a foodie, and I think this goes regardless. This goes regardless that whoever is taking their consultations from me, that person has to be a foodie, because I am a foodie and I attract foodies who want to be healthy. So yeah, so this person is a foodie, but at the same time, this person wants to understand how the science works, how our body works when we have diabetes. Because of course, when you have a better understanding, then only you can manage the root causes of any medical issue, in fact. So we started with a normal balanced diet in which, of course, everything was included. There were bananas, there were mangoes, there have been wheat, rice, everything that you can think of, and that is actually prohibited for people with diabetes. But that these things are also taken in combination with the right kind of workout and the right kind of sleep patterns or recovery. The result is that the person has now reduced their fasting blood sugar levels, and they are almost on the verge of reducing their medicine. And in fact, that also happens if you are doing the right things. You can actually reduce your medicine also. So before we understand why this happens, I think we need to go a little bit into the science of how diabetes happens and what is actually happening inside the body when a person is not a diabetic versus a person is a diabetic. So I think this is something that we have read in right from the class fifth, but various versions of it, and that is the digestive system. So in the fifth class, we have studied very elementary, superficial levels of it, and as we go on increasing our standard of studies, the complexity increases. So what happens, the basic procedure is that whatever we eat, that is broken down inside our body. So by the time our food reaches from the mouth to the intestine, it is broken down into carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Those carbohydrates are broken down to glucose, and glucose is actually the energy currency of the body. So glucose enters inside the cell, where cells break it down to create energy. But in this process, when the glucose is coming from the intestine to the cell, there are a lot of processes which happen. So inside of the intestine, when it is converted to glucose, then the blood carries that glucose to the cell. But to enter inside the cell, glucose needs to have a gate pass. That gate pass is insulin, which I think every one of us has heard, just as a medicine for diabetes. Like the people who inject insulin, that's majorly all the information that we have about insulin. However, I'll tell you how it works. So insulin works as a gate pass for the glucose to enter inside of the cell. And once it is inside the cell, the glucose can be broken down to make energy. But in the case of diabetics, what happens is that, one, the level of insulin in the blood is not enough. So there is glucose, but that glucose does not have that gate pass which can make it enter inside the cell where energy can be produced. That is the reason why that glucose keeps roaming in the blood, and then it shows in a higher fasting sugar or higher PP, and that is what is called diabetes. The reasons of that also we are going to discuss in a while, but meanwhile I'll just take a question. Please share how someone can detect early indications of diabetes. Yeah, so now since you understand what is happening when you have diabetes, so inside our body what's happening is that free glucose is roaming inside of the blood, which is not healthy, which is not right, and our body needs to maintain a certain level of chemical composition of the blood, and that is why that extra glucose has to be gotten rid of. And how it can be removed from the body? In the form of urine. So whenever the blood sugar rises, that blood sugar needs to be taken to the kidney, and from there it passes out of the body. So if you have too much extra sugar inside the body, like diabetic people have, then the kidney will have to work more to remove that glucose, and that's what shows as extra amount of P in a daily life, and the color of the urine is going to be dark because of that extra sugar inside that urine. So that is the firstest earliest sign of diabetes that you can figure out. The next sign of diabetes would be that the person will lose weight without even trying. Again, now if you go back to the explanation that I've given, the glucose is not able to enter inside of the cell. And since it is not able to enter inside of the cell, that's why cell cannot make enough energy. Now you're eating food, but your body is still craving for energy because the glucose cannot be utilized. And that is the reason why there is lack of energy. And when there is lack of energy, then the body looks out for the stored resources of energy. And there are two stored sources of energy. One is the muscle. So the muscles that we have, everybody, not only Salman Khan or Vikram, whatever, these actors, they are not the only ones who have muscle. Every one of us has muscles, depends on whether we train them or not. But our muscles are actually a source of stored energy inside our body. So our body starts to break down muscle in order to provide energy. And that is the reason the person with diabetes loses a lot of weight and looks weak rather than looking healthy. Usually, if there is some fat person and they are losing weight, ideally they should be looking healthy. But that doesn't happen because their limbs, their arms and their legs will get thinner. Why? Because again, arms and legs are the places where big muscles are there. The thigh is scientifically called quadriceps, and that is actually the biggest muscle of the body. And if you're losing muscle, that is the reason why your thighs will shrink in size. So that's one thing. Now, why is it that the body is not burning the second source of energy, which is fat? Because fat is important for survival and muscle is not. The reason behind that is, in fact, I have shared that in my sleep video also, sleep and stress video also. I will link it once the live is over. I'll link it in the iMark so that anybody who wants to watch, they can watch. So what happens is that because we still work like early man, now Early man can have any life threatening situation if an animal is running behind him. And in that situation, if that animal attacks, then the important agenda is to survive. That our brain knows that. And that is the reason why the vital organs, the stomach, intestines, and all these organs need to be protected. And that is the reason why a layer of fat is made on top of them for the survival, for the safety. And that is the reason why whenever there is a stress situation, like in case of diabetes, that our body is not able to generate enough energy, and that is a stress situation. Your body is panicking inside that, okay, fine, we are eating, but there is no energy. That is the reason why your body goes into the flight and fight response, and it will never get rid of the fat which is there in the body, because who knows, tomorrow maybe an animal will attack, right? And that is the reason why a person who is under stress of any kind will never burn fat and will always burn muscle first. This one thing applies to all the medical issues, all the weight loss cases. So this applies to those people also who want to lose weight but they take a lot of stress, even if the stress is only about weight loss. So I have had people like that also, where they want to lose weight, but then from the day one itself, oh my god, Manisha, I have weight, I need to lose weight, I need to lose weight, it's not happening, it's not happening. And when you are in that kind of stress zone, you will actually not lose fat, because your body thinks that you are under stress because of survival, because our body does not know any other way of stress. The reason for that is that the early man never had any other stress apart from survival. And that is the reason why, no matter whether you are stuck in work, no matter whether you are Netflix and chilling, no matter whether you are under a relationship stress, your body will take it the same way. So all the stress are same for the body. That is the reason why it's so important to not take stress in life to stay healthy. Because whenever you are stressed, no matter what reason it is, your body will burn muscle. And when you burn muscle, the disadvantage, let's just talk about the disadvantages of losing muscle. Now, muscle is the strength component of the body. The function of muscle inside the body is that, okay, let's just understand the structure of the body first. The innermost layer is organs, right? On top of it, there is a covering of bones so that the organs can be protected, right? But the bones is heart structure. Now, if there are two heart structures, which are like, if you're moving, you'll be, there'll be a lot of friction. That is the reason, to smoothen out the movements and to support the bones, there are muscles on the top of them. So muscle is like a cushion and strength for the bones. It keeps the bones held together and gives strength to the bone to move and to do everything, in fact. Now, if you lose muscle, now you can understand what all is going to be hampered. Your bone health will hampered, your posture will be hampered, your movement will be hampered. And since muscle performs so many functions, that is why muscle also improves your metabolism, because it is working very hard to burn calories. It is working hard, that's why it uses a lot of calories. And that is the reason why muscle is called the metabolically active tissue. So if you're losing muscle, you lose on your health, you lose on your metabolism, and that's not something that we want. Let's take the next question. What should a diabetic person have as a late night snack, like around 9:30? It depends. What time is the person sleeping? If they are sleeping at by say 10:30, which ideally they should not be having anything at that time. The idea should be that the dinner should be done around 2 hours before the bedtime. The reason for that is that any which way, in a diabetic person, the digestion is going through a lot of stress. And the flow of our digestive system is upward to downwards. And when you are lying horizontal, that thing will have the friction from the gravity, right? So gravity won't agree to that position in the in the flow of the digestion processes. Yeah. However, the bigger thing to consider here is that if you are checking your blood fasting sugars next day, it should always be taken care of that the difference between your night meal and the next day's first meal should be minimum 12 hours. The reason for that is that after 12 hours of not eating, our body goes into that state where it starts to burn your fat. So muscle has already been hampered. But at that time, your body understands that, okay, fine, now the food is not there. And at that time, we need to see how much is the level of sugar inside the blood, because after that, there will be a lot of muscle loss. And to break down that muscle and to break down that fat, the agenda would be that they should be broken down to create more glucose, because now glucose is less in the body after 12 hours. So that is the reason why fasting sugar is always checked after 12 hours of not eating anything. So the next thing that that I wanted to discuss was the mistakes that diabetic people make usually. The first mistake is not eating enough at the time of the meal. The reason for that is that, okay, the person will say that, so I'm talking about the people who want to be very, very disciplined about their blood sugar management. They would try to eat lesser. And the reason that they'll give is my blood sugar will increase. The reason why that's not a good thing to do is that when your blood sugar, so in an ideal day, when we eat, the blood sugar goes high, and when we are not eating, the blood sugar goes low, and in the meanwhile, the insulin is doing its job to take the glucose inside the cells. Now, when we are eating food, if you are not eating enough, then there won't be enough glucose inside the blood to create enough energy. And that's when, if you are not giving glucose to the body will take it from the muscle. It's as simple as that. So you'll get weaker if you're not eating food. What you can instead do is you increase the amount of protein in your food, and you increase the amount of fiber in your food by increasing a lot of vegetables and fruits with the meals. So don't have fruits with the meals, but vegetables you should always have with the meals. Those are the two solutions for that thing. So you do not have to crave. You do not have to stay hungry in order to manage your blood sugar levels. The second mistake that I see people making is not having anything sweet, even in the natural forms, in order to control the blood sugar. The reason why that's not a good idea is that now there comes a concept of glycemic index and glycemic load, which I have also discussed in the video, but I'll explain it here as well. So how sweet a food is not going to be a problem, but the problem is how quickly a food releases its sugar inside the blood. I'll repeat that. The speed at which a food releases its sugar inside the blood is more important than how sweet a food is. Now you would ask, aren't they same? The answer is no, they are not same. The reason is there is a scale in which foods are categorized in the order of how quickly they release their energy, their glucose inside the blood. The difference comes in the fiber content of the meal and the protein amount of a certain food. So this scale is called glycemic index. Something which will very quickly release glucose in the blood will have a glycemic index of 100. One food which is at 100 is white bread, which means the moment you eat it, the glucose is inside your blood. That is not something that we want. The reason being, in a diabetic person, insulin is anyway working very slow. Either it is very less or it is not there at all. So we do not want to load glucose at once inside the blood. We want foods which release their glucose slowly and gradually, so that the little insulin that they have, it can manage that glucose load. So if I tell you a brief about the scale, the more you go towards the processed foods, the scale increases. And the more you go towards the unprocessed natural foods, the scale reduces. And we want that reduction. So the more you have processed food, it's going to be bad for you. And the more you have natural foods, it's going to be good for you. That is the reason why mangoes, bananas, rice are allowed to diabetic people, because one, they are natural sources of sugar, and their glycemic index is between medium to low range. So that is the reason a diabetic person need not avoid these foods. Now, the second thing comes is the glycemic load. Glycemic load simply is whatever the glycemic index of the food is, multiply that with the amount of food that you're having. So all we need to do is have small and frequent meals, so that even if you're having low to medium glycemic index foods, the glucose again is not loaded in the blood at once. So the ways to reduce the glycemic index of a meal. Now, if we talk about a meal, in a meal there is not going to be only one thing. Like if you have rice, you won't be having just rice, right? So how to calculate the glycemic index of a meal? The answer is we do not have to. The only thing that we need to take care of is that we combine many different type of foods which take a lot of time to digest. So if you're having rice, there will be a certain glycemic index, which is medium glycemic index. Now the low glycemic index foods are the ones which have a good amount of protein in that, because body takes some time to break down that protein. So that is the reason why dal chawal is a very good combination for even a diabetic person. If you want to reduce the glycemic index even further, add vegetables. That way the glycemic index will further reduce. So it will take some time for that meal to digest, and slowly and gradually the glucose will be released inside the blood. So it's going to be manageable for the body. That's how you can actually manage the glycemic index and glycemic load of a meal. The third mistake that I see people making is this is legit that I've seen this. People with diabetes, and I'm talking about the people who are not at all disciplined, they'll have a lot of sweet, processed sweet like mithai, desserts, and then they'll say, okay, fine, we'll have 2 tablets instead of 1. That's such a blunder to do. The reason for that is, I mean, this is quite obvious, but still, the science behind that is that whenever we are having a hormone from the outside, now if you're having metformin or whatever medicine that the person is taking for diabetes, that medicine is actually doing the job of insulin, right? And our body is very intelligent in the terms of managing the energy distribution. So what happens is that when you take the tablet for insulin, your brain knows that, okay, fine, this XYZ amount of insulin is coming from outside. So we can start making a little less of the insulin inside to save energy, because anyway it is coming from outside. And that is the reason why, even if you are having your medicine on time, if you are not working on the fundamentals of the reasons why it is happening, your medicine will always increase in dose. This applies to not only diabetes, but also hypothyroidism, PCOD, in fact, all the lifestyle disorders. So if you are taking some kind of hormone from the outside, your body will start making a little less of it inside, and that's when your natural balance will go out of toss. A very simple example I think I can give you guys is that when we see a bodybuilder who is like really bulky, the first thing a normal person has in their head is okay, fine, he's taking a lot of testosterone, and that is the reason why his sexual power will reduce. Let me tell you, the same thing is happening with insulin. The same thing is happening with your thyroxine, which is the hypothyroidism medicine. The same thing is happening with the estrogen, which is taken in the case of PCOD and hormonal disbalances. Whenever you are taking a hormone from the outside, your natural production will reduce. And now, I'm not saying that the person should not have medicine, but the medicine is actually not the solution to the problem. The solution to the problem is that you understand the reason why your insulin is not able to penetrate inside the cell and rectify that. The usual reasons for that is that there is this cell. Inside the cell, there is nucleus, and there are a lot of organelles, which actually is the machinery of the cell. Now, what happens is that the insulin is coming with, no, the glucose is coming with the insulin attached to it, which is the gate pass to enter inside the cell. But what usually happens in many people is that the cell has a very big layer of fat around it. That is the reason. So you must have seen that obese people have more diabetes, like have more chances of having diabetes. The reason is this only. The insulin is coming in with the glucose, but the cell has a very thick layer of fat around it, and that is why the insulin is not able to penetrate inside the cell. Now, the one idea can be that you have medicine from the outside. There is a little insulin in your body, which is now going to anyway, which is going to increase the power of insulin. But that way, your body will start making a little less of the insulin that you require. If you want to fix the basics, then reduce that layer of fat, and that can happen with eating clean, working out, sleeping well. I think transformation videos, weight loss video, I've added so many. I'm going to tag them in the iMark also, so that you can see them after the live is over. But yeah, the first thing that you can do is reduce that fat. The second thing that you can do is increase the metabolism. Now, how to increase the metabolism? I have given a lot of videos also, but the way to increase the metabolism, the fundamental way is you increase your muscle mass. And when you increase muscle mass, your bones will be stronger, your posture will be better, and your body will burn more energy without even asking you. That's a great idea to to increase your metabolism and get healthier. That's the simplest way to do that. The fourth mistake that I see diabetic people making is exercise, and the form of the exercise that they choose is usually walk. Now, I'll tell you something very funny about walk. If you are walking for like half an hour, you burn calories equivalent to around 5 Surya Namaskars. And 5 Surya Namaskars can be done in like 5 minutes. This is the reason why I always tell this thing to my diabetic clients also, that walking is actually a very inefficient way of exercising, because it practically does not do anything. In fact, if we I don't know if you guys remember or not, but in class 8th or 9th we had this physics numerical where we used to calculate the work done in the case of walking, and it used to be 0. We need to realize that. It's high time that we realize that. So yeah, don't walk, do some exercise which actually helps you burn some calories. And the way you can do that is, so an ideal structure of the workout for any issue, for any medical issue, would be that around 5 to 10 minutes there should be some warm up, so that you increase your blood flow, you increase your heart rate a little. Then around half an hour to 45 minutes, you do some sort of muscle challenging exercises. It can be weight training, it can be yoga, it can be Pilates, whatever you choose, but your muscles should be challenged in that. Okay, and then in the end of 10 to 15 minutes, you do some sort of cardio in which your heart rate increases. That's the ideal structure of a workout. So yeah, about the workout, don't walk, do some exercise which actually challenges your muscle, because whatever challenges your muscles will actually increase the metabolism and make you stronger. That way, there are higher chances that you will be reversing your diabetes. um, Apart from that, another mistake that I wanted to discuss with you guys, which usually I see diabetic people making, is that they keep all kind of sweets in one category. Mango, banana, rasgulla, everything is in the same category. But as I mentioned earlier, glycemic index and glycemic load are the two things. The more you go towards the processed food, the more the glycemic index becomes, and that's something that we need to avoid. So no two types of sweets are the same. You need to really understand the amount of protein and fiber that is going inside, and that will actually decide your glycemic index and glycemic load of that food, and that will decide whether you should eat that or not. So once you have that kind of understanding, then of course you'll be much clearer in the choice of foods that you eat. However, if you have someone who has diabetes and you think that this calculation and this mind work is going to be too much, then always go for some expert who knows their shit and can actually guide them, like me. I'm advertising myself. Anyway, so yeah, so the outcomes of let's just discuss what will be the resultant of if you apply everything that I've discussed with you in this live session. The first thing is your blood fasting glucose level is going to be controlled, and you will start seeing the difference within a week of time. Okay, I'm not making some extravagant claim. I've seen that happening with all my clients. Within a week, you can see your blood fasting glucose levels changing. In 3 months, you can actually see your medicines, the level of dosages going down. You will feel a lot more freedom in the terms of the foods that you can eat, and the kind of life that you lead. Because I have seen people who have diabetes, and there's a lot of discipline which is required in the case of blood sugar management. However, more often than not, that discipline is surrounded with a lot of myths, and that hampers the quality of life of a diabetic person, which ideally should not be the case. So if you apply everything that is discussed in this live session, then the quality of life of a diabetic person is definitely going to improve. Your strength is going to improve, and yeah, and you'll remember me. So these are the outcomes of applying this live session to anyone who is a diabetic. And if there is one takeaway that we need to have, if there is one thing that you can take away from this live session, is that you should not ever think that diabetes is going to be the end of an interesting life, or out of frustration you will be eating foods, and out of frustration you'll be having cravings, and then you will be breaking the discipline every now and then whenever there is a festival. That doesn't have to be the case. Diabetes management, blood sugar management is easy if you are intentional about it, if you know exactly what you're doing, if you're clear in your approach. Blood sugar management can be easy, and diabetes type 2 can be reversed as well. So yeah, That's majorly about it. Those are the things that I planned for this live session. Now, once I save the live, it will be open for sharing with anyone. If you want to share it with anyone, please do. And yeah, I will keep answering the questions on the live session if there are any in the comment box. So yeah, I'll see you next week. And oh, by the way, there's this announcement. Next week, I am starting a new series on female health, and I am going to cover everything from weight loss to hormones to periods to to pregnancy to everything. So in the female health series, I am guessing there's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of science, as you can expect from me. So yeah, next week I'm going to start this series on female health. If so, tell it to all the females that you know, so that they can come to the channel and be a part of that series. I am up for suggestions of the kind of topics that I should pick. If you have any, let me know, and you can also let me know on my Instagram channel, like my Instagram page, which will be in the description box. So my name there is Dietitian Manisha, Titan. And yeah, there I do a lot of stuff every single day, and every alternate day I put a short video, which is usually fun and a very informative one. So yeah, you can follow me there, and yeah, I'll see you next week with the female health uh, series. And yeah, bye. I hope you had a great Sunday beginning. Bye. Have a great Sunday.